Welcome to the Eskrima podcast. My name's Jason Inay. I'm an Inayan Eskrimador. And we're continuing on with the final part of the elements of reaction time. Awareness, perception, analysis, strategy, and execution. Execution, what we're about to talk about. If we look at the TOTE model, that's still in the operate section of the test, operate, test, and exit. If we're looking at the OODA loop, that's action, observe, orient, decide, and then act, right? And then, of course, it's the last or fifth stage of the elements of reaction time. So, execution. If we're attacking execution, we're essentially preempting, stopping someone from the ability to even start, right? So that requires quite a bit of awareness and analysis and perception, and the strategy of preemption has to be already preloaded in the way that you're going to do things, and then your own execution of that is just before their execution stage, if we're looking at it from a timing sense. Execution also from just the side of putting anything into action is at least partially governed by a sentiment or an idea that I picked up over the years, which is in the land of uncertainty, confidence is king. Fighting or conflict or any kind of sense of contention in many ways is unknown and uncertain, right? So whatever you do execute or attempt to execute, it must be done with a certain sense of confidence. When I'm teaching kids, adults to a degree, but more so the kids, and we're training, we're teaching, and everything else, and I'll tell them, I'll ask them a question of some sort, like, how many angles of attack are there for you in your basics, or something like that, and they'll answer like 5. So they answer with a question. So not a confident way to move forward, right? Execution has to be done so confidently that even if it's not necessarily right, people won't even notice, right? So executing any given tactic or strategy must be done with some sense of authority, assertiveness, confidence in doing that. That's going to also, when you pursue a line of action with that sense of urgency and confidence, it is going to make it so that preempting you is more difficult because there's no hesitation, right? It's like that whole adage of, I've got two swords, one I call kindness, the other one hesitation, right? Kill them with kindness, hesitation kills, that kind of idea, right? You can't confidently do something and then hesitate. They don't work together. So when we're training to execute a given defense. Say it's the Suro defense. Say it's the umbrella on angle 2, right? So this is a overhead strike, diagonal, originating from my opponent's left shoulder or high area in general, and it's going to terminate on my right shoulder. No, excuse me. It's going to terminate on my right shoulder. That could be for a lefty a high forehand strike, and for a righty it's a high backhand strike. It can be executed with sword or stick or anything else, right? And I'm going to execute an umbrella. You cannot hesitate on an umbrella because you're essentially ducking under that blow, right? You have to execute it in such a way that it's done confidently, that it's done with good timing, the technique is very precise, and it's done fluidly. In order for you to execute that in any way close to speedy or powerful, right? So execution is predicated upon you being able to confidently put into action whatever plan it is that you have, and then execute that in such a way that to the opponent, even if it was done somewhat poorly, the authority in the execution is done so well in terms of being confident with that it doesn't make a difference, right? Against an average opponent. And that's probably one of the keys to understand, is against an average opponent, right? Most of the opponents that you're going to encounter as you become better are not going to be very good. My experience when I used to spar all the time was that there was a bar, there was like you at least had to be fast, and you at least had to be aggressive. You had to execute things with authority, including attacks, not just defenses, right? You have to do them hard and fast and like definitively, authoritatively, right? But they weren't necessarily great attacks or good attacks. In fact, in many cases, one could say that they were poor attacks, because people would execute their maneuvers under the auspices of like tournament rules or sparring rules, which are not actually like fighting rules. Sparring matches, whether it's full contact, stick, or whatever, always at some point has some kind of rule set in it that has to throttle back the efforts of the competitor or the fighter. But even still, right, you have to do it pretty authoritatively, and because of the rule set, right, it's not necessarily the most combat effective movement, but at the same time, even if you execute it quickly against most people, it'd be fine, right? If you're trying to fight against someone who's, if it's a life and death match, you'd fight differently, but you still would execute the same way. You would do it definitively, you would do it with authority, you would do it abruptly, you would execute in a confident manner so as to not only beat the opponent's attack physically, but also be able to beat the opponent's attack from a esprit de corps, morale kind of thing, right? You could even say to break their spirit, right? But what you're really trying to do is you do it so confidently that in their mind and their heart, they don't think they can defeat you, right? So execution isn't just simply execute, right? There's a timing for it. There's a way to do it. Now, there isn't to say that striking or attacking as a means of winning can't be done as a question, right? Without confidence, if you will, as a ruse. As a ruse de guerre, like, you could tentatively do something, but that's a whole strategy in and of itself that you're executing, if you're doing it deliberately, right? Deliberate is the most important part, right? It can't be done accidentally. Luck will win the day, sure as anything else will. But if you're counting on luck, that's a problem, right? We should count on our expertise and our skill, count on our aggressiveness, our esprit de corps, if you will, our morale. Count on being first, right? And then if luck comes into our favor, then we can capitalize on that. And then if luck is coming into favor of our opponent, it is our desire to be able to execute different strategies that negate their luck, right? But that being said, I think of the times that I fought. And it's a funny thing, like, I learned this all from my father. Elements of reaction time and the other elements of the cipher that are at its core. And I've been in, little challenge matchy kind of things, not too crazy, but like, we need a competitor to come up, we need a volunteer to fight, right? And I would do these matches or fights, or we would fight in class, right? Or in some kind of other event where you're against someone that you're less familiar with or not familiar with at all. And I'm defending and moving and stepping and watching my opponent, anticipating and predicting what they do. And all the time I'm still ticking through these stages of reaction time, these elements of reaction time, right? So I wouldn't say that the invention or the calcification of the cipher and the ideas that we have in the academic part of Inayan, right, the teaching theory and all that other stuff, is what makes fighting. In fact, anybody that would assert that there are a set of concepts and strategies are what, they created that or whatever it is. What we're doing is organizing an experience that is common to most people. Everybody experiences some sort of conflict, right? And if you're in a downward spiral emotionally, or in your private life or anything like that, it may be that you're just simply unaware of your own problems, right? And you don't perceive them as problems. So there's no analysis, therefore no strategy, no execution to deal with it. Most people are so unaware of themselves that the only way that they can execute forward is, their only strategy is call a therapist, call a professional in whatever reason, right? And then have them fix it. In a fight, you can't call a fight teacher. You can't call your teacher to fix your fight, right? No matter how good you are, if you're getting to the execution stage and you're just failing to execute, or you're unaware of a particular kind of attack, or whatever it is, you can't be like, hey, Guru so-and-so, can you fix this? No, you gotta fix that right there. A person's still trying to hit you with something. It could be a bottle, it could be a brick, it could be a blade. You don't know. Your training should be able to accommodate all of those in a balled up fist too, right? So, I go through teaching these things on a regular basis to my students here in the U.S., the Los Gatos School, all over the country, in Europe, in Southeast Asia, in the Middle East. It always comes down to these things and how they interplay as we're training, whether we're sparring, we're doing lock and block, we're doing flow spar, we're doing any kind of drills, right? And how each of these drills or exercises or techniques is bringing your awareness, if you're paying attention, to a certain section, right? And so that while your mind is there, aware there, we can work on that particular stage. I go through all these memories of fights, and I lost this one karate fight. I go with my dad to Kansas with a bunch of other students. We road trip it out there. It's like 30 something hours. I had just turned 16, so I wanted to drive. I was a stupid kid, right? I can understand now why they didn't let me drive, but then I was like, oh, come on, I can drive. But we're going to Wichita, Kansas to teach at Master Roger Carpenter School. I think it's Wichita Karate Institute or something like that. Carpenter was a Kempo black belt under, I think, his name escapes me, not Lee Wedlake, it was somebody else. But it doesn't matter right now for the purpose of the story. So we're going to go there and we're going to teach people how to spar with knives so they can have a knife fighting competition or division for knife, point fighting. My dad was very against saying that we taught knife fighting. It was more like knife sparring or knife competition's fine. We teach Kiri no Wano, which teaches the use of the knife. And while we were doing Baku combat in our training, and we would do live blade training, he would never assert that we teach knife fighting. He never wanted the responsibility of that, right? Because it's dangerous. My uncle Danny, he doesn't even like the idea of teaching all those things, though he does, because he feels it takes away from the beauty of the art, and it's more about killing and less about, the other benefits of training in martial arts, especially Filipino martial arts, right? But we're going to go there and we're going to teach how to do the point knife sparring. We're going to judge. We're going to teach others how to judge. We're going to show them the scoring system, etc. It's relatively the same or simple in light of karate point fighting and stuff like that. So we go and we're teaching the thing the first day or whatever, and then it's a night of the competition or the night before the competition. And these people are like, they're preparing for this. This is an annual event that they get ready for, and a bunch of different schools get ready for this. So there's all kinds of guys there, all kinds of people there fighting. And I'm fighting some guy, or rather, my dad surprised me with, okay, you're fighting in the black belt division for karate, whatever. I'm like, what? This is not something that we normally do. We don't empty hand fight much. But he had decided that we were going to do it. I'm like, so me and another student, I don't think it was anybody else but us. I don't think there was anybody else but us. But, we're required to fight this thing. My dad watching this one particular school, and they're like straight up Cobra Kai bad, right? In terms of like sense of sportsmanship, if you will, or even just a sense of respect. Just like what we would never want a student to be like this. But the entire school was like this. And my dad's like, break that student. So the other guy like kicks the guy while he's kicking it, and the guy like dislocates his spine or something like that. It's pretty bad. And I'm fighting a guy, and it's nothing as grievous as that, but fighting, and I'm coming from a Kadena Dabano background, and this guy's coming from a Kempo or some other kind of karate point fighting, and has done this before. I don't think I ever point fought before that, not really. I know, not competitively. And punching and stuff like that, and I'm blocking and parrying, and we're getting in little light hits, but nothing counts, because at this school, if it doesn't make a loud sound and looks like it hurts, it doesn't count, right? And we're just wearing handgear and foot gear, and I think a cup and a mouthpiece, so no headgear, nothing like that. At least I don't remember wearing headgear. And he gets in tight, deep inside the pocket, right? And he's balled up, like covered up, almost like a clinch, but he's really just balled up in front of me with the back of his head upwards, because his head's down. And so I'm about to drop an elbow on the back of the guy's head, because that's what we train for. And the ref's like, no, don't do it. And he's like, no. And thankfully I was aware of the ref while I was doing things, right? And I could perceive what he was saying and go, oh, yeah, he's directing that command at me. I didn't know it was illegal to drop an elbow vertically downward on back of someone's head in competition. I thought we were fighting, because I didn't train for that kind of match, right? So I wasn't fighting the same way as they were. So, like, we're punching back and forth. This happens. And the referee breaks us up, and he says, I'll give you a warning, you're not supposed to do that. I said, no, sir, sorry. He goes, this is not a boxing match, you need to kick too. So, we square up again, we go, and fight. He says, fight! We're going to fight. And I shuffle in the leg front snap kick, uprising round, essentially. Not a kick that I normally practice, but I've seen a lot of the people do it. We kind of practice kicks like that. But I did it, I executed it in such a way that the guy didn't even see it, right? It came in so quick. I came up right underneath his hands and got him in the stomach, got a point. It was my first point. Yay. But I just didn't fight the way that they did, and my perception and need for winning by the points didn't occur to me. Like, it was like, I don't really care, and like, I can fight this guy. I already almost killed him. Luckily the ref stopped me from doing that for him. I got my kicks in, I got a couple punches in, he got a bunch more kicks and punches in, and we're getting to the end, and I'm getting frustrated because the guy's using sparring techniques, like getting out of bounds, all that stuff that prevents the fight from continuing, right? Very good use, very good competitive use of the rule set, but really not within my own estimation of what good fighting is, right? And I'm an opinionated 16-year-old who thinks that my martial art is the best martial art. which is, I don't think that anymore. But then I did. I was very confident and loyal and naive about martial arts, and overly confident about my own family system being the best. I don't think any system is the best. I think it's the way you understand it, teach it, execute it, how you render the art is what shows whether or not the art is superior in any one given context, right? So then it's incumbent upon the teacher and the system and the organization and the student to find the best way to render the art at any given time through structure of teaching and things, right? But so I'm getting frustrated with this guy. I'm not allowed to elbow. I find out I'm not allowed to knee. Certainly can't headbutt. All these things that I would do. And because it's points where I can't joint lock, can't do. I'm frustrated. So, but I can block with my elbow. I'm like, okay, so I can block with my elbow. I can't hit with my elbow. So I suckered this guy into giving me, he gave me a rear leg front kick. I just opened up the center of my body so that all he could see was a good front kick to the groin or the chest, whichever. It didn't really matter to me. I wanted that angle 5. So I presented target. I framed it. This is all unconscious. I didn't even know, this wasn't a conscious thing. This was like a certain level of unconscious competence where I don't even know what I know. I don't even know how I did it. I just know that I did it. But I did something to create the opportunity for this guy because I was waiting for that front kick. And it's probably because he had done the front kick a couple times or whatever. But I gave him the opening. And I parried that front kick right into my elbow and elbowed his shin as hard as I could. So, and then he gets like a chest hit or something. I don't know. He gets a bonk on the head. I don't know. Like whatever. He hit me. I'm sure it stung because that particular competition, again, like I said, that's in the old days where you were hand gear and foot gear, maybe, but and a groin and a mouthpiece, a cup and a mouthpiece. That's it. That's all you got. No chest protector, no head protector, none of that stuff. Contact to the head needed to be hard enough that it would look like it was a stunning blow. There could be a little bit of head snap, but no unconsciousness, right? The sense of like unnecessary contact, or whatever the term was that if you hurt the person, too bad. Not that you hurt the person. This is just a different time. I mean, we're talking like 1989, somewhere around there, 88, 89, somewhere. In any event, I lost that match. And they called the winner. The other guy, he was wearing a black gi. I think I was wearing like maybe BDUs, because back then we were still wearing the SWAT BDUs and our shirt. But I might have been given a jacket and a black belt to wear while we competed because you had to or something. I don't remember. But I remember his black gi. And I think he had a blue headband on or something like that, like a sweatband. But he wins. Like, okay, he won. I walk off the mat. He limps off the mat. Maybe that's a moral victory. I don't know. But like all the things that are happening, the perceiving the attacks, making an analysis of what I might do, employing different strategies, executing those strategies, all of those things were occurring in that match. And at the same time, the strategies that I was using, though they might be in that context combat effective, they weren't competitive effective, right? And so that brings us back to strategy. Like, what are you trying to achieve with your strategy? How are you trying to win, if you will, right? How you define victory is your strategy, right? Your overall strategy. How you get to that victory with different tricks and techniques are your tactics, right? And then executing them in such a way as to achieve that victory is what's important in your martial art, and then also important in life. Like, how do you want to, so I'm a technical recruiter, and I got this intern asking me about her brother, and he just finished school just recently, and he doesn't know what to do. He's got a biodynamics degree. And he goes, I don't know, he doesn't know what to do. He wants to get into the corporate world. He did a little bit of intern work, etc. Asked him questions about what kind of internship, like was he pipetting, was he creating like some kind of test protocol or something like that? Was he programming some kind of device or tool to execute their experiments? What was it he's doing? And then she's like, oh yeah, he was just doing the test stuff, and he just wants to get in corporate. And I'm getting nowhere. I'm like, okay, so this strategy, this line of questioning is not working. So I go, okay, let's take a different route. That's okay. So let's perceive what it is that he wants. Find out, like, how does he want to live his life? Because ultimately, you go to school so you can get a job. You get that job so you can live a particular kind of life, right? That's in general. And then, get a car, get married, right, and all that stuff, have kids, and be fat and old and generally unhappy. That's the rest of America, right? But, if we think about it from the point of view of, like, well, how do I want to live my life? Who do I want in my life? Where do I want to go? Where do I want to live? What kind of cars do I want to drive? What do my vacations look like? Define your bullseye first, right? That's your strategy. This is my bullseye. Then figure out between what you like to do and what you're good at, and what would pay enough for what you're willing to do to get you to that target, that bullseye. This is a process of, like, I know I want to do something because like that's what you're supposed to do. It's a sense of perception, right? And then what could I do? I have all these things. I don't know. I'll get a job, and I get a job, and then I'll do the job, and I'll be miserable at the job, and then I'll get a different job. And this is an analysis, strategy, execution loop, test, operate, test loop. And people never really exit, right? Because they don't get what they want necessarily until it's too late, right? Because there's, time's a ticking. So what you got to do is go, okay, here's my strategy. It's exactly what I want. You got to know what you want, right? You got to know what you're getting, right? And then you have to be behavioral flexible enough in your behaviors that you can change your strategy, right? So we talked about it in that way, and then having that understanding and then executing along those lines is going to probably be a surer way to get to where you want, because you don't want to just pick any corporate job. I have a friend who does compliance documentation, and he's really good at it, and he seems to like it. But for me, telling people how they need to do things to comply to some kind of government standard, whether it be U.S. or otherwise, is not a way that I would enjoy living life, right? It's not the life that I want to live. So these elements of reaction time can be applied, all that story there was for this idea that everything that you want to do in martial arts can be divided up into these elements of reaction time in a way that we can understand the process and flow of things to create change in our lives. Essentially, an attack is a problem. We need to change this state, right? And so we have to have a strategy in place that will achieve our particular goals, and we need to execute that strategy, right? In a way that leaves us in a space and place that is of our own choosing and is ideal for our own situation, right? So the elements of reaction time, although we use it for fighting, it's really just for like self-development in general. Because what is martial arts if it's not a form of self-development? Martial arts is a process of transformation, right? If you're really becoming a martial artist, you go from I think I need to learn self-defense, or I want to learn jiu-jitsu or whatever, like in the Matrix or whatever, right? You decide you want to learn martial arts. You go from I want to learn martial arts to I go to martial arts class to, oh yeah, I've been doing martial arts for a while too. Oh, I'm a martial artist, to some other kind of transformation, hopefully deliberately done on your part and your teacher's part to meet a particular objective, a process of transformation. And then at the end of that, hopefully it was a well-defined target, because then you end up where you want to be, ideally. Some people, they define success in martial arts differently. Like If you're a performance martial arts, it's like, how many trophies can I get? Can I get on the Paul Vidal Sassoon or whatever it is competitions that they do, the exhibition stuff with the really fast tricking kind of performance martial arts? Or do you want to be a competitive guy? And is that point karate competitive? Is that judo competitive? Is that Brazilian jiu-jitsu competition, kendo? What is it? Like some kind of competition? Or others are like, I'm just reality-based street fighting, right? And that's another thing. Or the tactical guys with which in Inayan right now we're back to that, BDUs and things like that. We did it in the 80s and now we're doing it in the 2020s, right? Wearing the cargo pants, if you will, as because like when we fight, we usually have pockets, and so we want to train with pockets because people have things in their pockets, and we need to be aware of that, right? But every system organization, whatever, they're trying to achieve a particular thing. So as long as you go through that transformation, and at the end of that transformation, it's the thing that you were trying to achieve, or even better, that's great. Then good on you for executing a strategy that worked, right? So anyways, that's the elements of reaction time: awareness, perception, analysis, strategy, and execution. Hope that you enjoyed that. We'll see you on the training floor.